Welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange Podcast. Stories by leaders for leaders to help you raise the bar on your own excellence, to release the potential inside of you. Now, here's today's podcast. Welcome to another version of the Nonprofit Exchange. It's Hugh Ballou and my colleague, Russell David Dennis. How are you today, Russell?
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange. We are doing great here in the Denver, Colorado area.
So, Russell, you and I have been doing this for a while. Overall, the Nonprofit Exchange started 4 years ago, and we have hundreds of episodes from really good people. And our guest today was here once before talking about a different topic, but we're talking about a related topic, and I thought it was so important we should invite him back and dig a little deeper into this intellect. You know, us old guys, we've earned the right to talk about more than one thing because we've been around the block a few times. So let's welcome Pipp Patton. He's from the Central Florida, Orlando, Florida area. So Pipp, welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Actually, I'm in Tampa technically, but that still qualifies as Central Florida. Thank you.
Yeah, I know where Tampa is. I used to live in St. Pete, which is on.
I know you did.
So
a little on my background.
Yes.
I currently have a digital marketing agency, which I've had here in Tampa. I co-founded with a partner about 8 years ago. But in a former life, I was actually a Yellow Pages rep. So I sold Yellow Pages back when the Yellow Page directory that everybody had in their house was the search engine of choice. And of course, that has now changed. But what was interesting about that is it gave me a lot of insight into a lot of different types of businesses. So since then, my focus has been helping local businesses primarily market themselves, which is what I really enjoy doing. And because I found that the people who own local businesses are folks that I really enjoy getting to know and working with and helping them succeed. And it was just very rewarding. Rewarding for me, rewarding for them. So it was good all the way around. And then when we spoke a while back, we talked about Google grants, which are available to the nonprofit sector. Google Ads availability, which Google will provide. And we can visit that again at some point. And then today, I think we were going to talk about the idea that our website's dead today.
That was our teaser headline.
Yes.
It's about more than just one thing, though. So where did you get this expertise from?
Well, after being in Yellow Pages and working with local businesses for a number of years, actually I did that for 14 years. I got out of that and really spent a couple of years taking care of my mom, who needed some attention at that time. And then in the process, I was very interested in all the technology. Google was starting to become, raising up and becoming well known. I remember having to wait early on to even get a Gmail address for email, because when they first started Gmail, they weren't, anybody couldn't just go every day and get a Gmail account. You had to get on the waiting list because they were rolling them out slowly, I guess, making sure things would work. So I remember waiting for that. And so I just began to learn more about, websites and marketing online and how that could help local businesses, because as I talked to local businesses that I knew, and, they were confused about, should I have a website? Should I not have a website? How am I going to market myself? Because Yellow Pages doesn't have people's attention anymore. TV and radio have become very fragmented. And it's all about, really, in today's world, it's all about where are people's attention? Where are they? Where is their attention focused? And can I get my message in front of them? And today, really, people's attentions are on their phones. This little device has changed the world. And as powerful as this device is right now, within the next 10 years, it will become vastly more powerful and vastly more important, especially from a marketing standpoint.
Well, you gave us a couple of topics, our website's dead, but your overall thought was, how do we create a sales funnel? Now, sales funnel, now we're talking about a nonprofit, Pipp. Why do we need a sales funnel for a nonprofit?
Well, one thing in particular that it can be used for is it can help them in the fundraising arena. Because I mean, I've seen a lot of nonprofits and regular businesses that will spend money on advertising, Google ads and other things, and all they'll do is they'll send that traffic to the homepage of the website. And when they get to the homepage of the website, it doesn't actually focus a visitor's attention any one place. And people get distracted very easily today. So when you land on the homepage of somebody's website, there's 42 things you can click on, drop-down menus and social media links and all that stuff. And so in a lot of cases, people have wasted their advertising dollars just sending a visitor to the homepage of their website. If they're trying to get them to maybe make a donation, maybe if they're running a charity golf event, they want somebody to sign up. They want them to join a newsletter. They want to announce an event they have coming up. Maybe it's a holiday coming. I know we've got Easter coming in a couple of months. Maybe they're starting to promote some Easter activities. When you're going to direct people for a particular purpose, wherever they land needs to speak solely to that purpose. And in a lot of cases, it doesn't. That's why I say the website is kind of dead, because a website is really just like a brochure, as opposed to what we like to call a landing page, where you can direct somebody's attention for the purpose that you got them there.
Well, you're bringing them in from a noisy world, and then you create more noise, and they don't know where to go. I'll give you an acronym that I learned from Tom Antion, who teaches speakers how to build businesses. And Tom says, HITS, HITS, is how idiots define success. Hits. You don't care how idiots track success. You got it. So it's not how many hits you got, it's how many conversions you have, how many donations. So websites, so I will agree with you. I see a lot of dead websites. So it's not really, and I've heard this from one of the clients that I had where I used to live, who had a very large team, and they produced big web, what they call web experiences, like for state parks, like for government, like for universities. And there wasn't just a pretty thing up there. That Tom also had talked about web designers being propeller heads. We created something that's pretty, but it has no attractiveness, no engagement factor. So you've just hit on one of the big ones. Websites are in fact dead because we don't know how to engage people with this experience. So let me throw that back in your arena. Did any of those prompt some comments?
Well, absolutely, and that's just the case. That's what we're finding today. That if people are going to send, let's say a church has a large email list and they want to do an email promotion for a particular purpose, they have to send that traffic to a specific place if they want to get the results that they would like to have. And so a website itself is not going to make that happen. It needs a landing page. Now, a landing page possibly can be part of that website, or it's going to be a separate, like a mini website, which are what I call sales funnels, are kind of like a mini website. And if you direct somebody there, then you have the ability to extract the result you're looking for. Because when they get there, they only have a couple of options. Either follow through and do what you're asking them to do, or click away and go somewhere else. I mean, as an example, outside, in the regular for-profit sector, there's a lot of companies, large and small, that spend huge amounts of money on ads online, and Google in particular. All of them that are serious, spending significant dollars, and by that I would say probably 5 figures a month or more, are sending that traffic to what we call specific landing pages. So if somebody is, let's say it's an attorney, and he is advertising for a, auto accidents or something, he wants to send that traffic to a specific page that talks about that topic, maybe gives some of his testimonials and things that speaks to his credibility, and then they have an option, and usually in that case 2 options. One is either to call him or to send him a message asking for his a consultation. And an example, like in the e-commerce world, here's a, I can show you this later if you want, but I've got a funnel that I created for for Christian Family Life recently, and all it's designed to do is to get people who are interested in finding out more about their small group study it's a marriage ministry called Two Becoming One. So I'm working with them on that, and then I recently did a funnel for a jeweler, and because jewelers are somebody who doesn't really, they don't take much advantage of digital media at all. And one of the benefits of that is people can choose to buy something, and then in the order process, you have the ability to get them to maybe buy something a little extra. And the same can be applied to the nonprofit sector. If somebody agrees to make a donation, as an example, then in the checkout process, there may be some other things that you could offer them that they might like to do and participate in that would generate more revenue for the nonprofit, and it doesn't require any extra work on the part of the person who's making the purchase or the donation. What I mean is, we have a mechanism we call a one-click upsell. And let's say you go to a page and you say, yes, I want to, let's say you go to a page and you say, yes, I want to buy this item. Let's say you're selling a t-shirt, okay? You want to buy a t-shirt. You put in your credit card information, you get ready to check out, and at the bottom it says, there's this little box that says, oh, by the way, would you also like to have a hat that matches? They're normally $25. Well, you can have one today for $15. And all you have to do is say yes, check, do a checkbox, and boom, they don't have to go back and put their credit card information in again. So it's a really powerful thing, because when people have already made the decision to spend some money or make a donation, in many cases you can offer some other things that will entice them to spend more money or make further donations, maybe for a different purpose, while they're in that mindset.
Well, that requires knowing what you want, Pipp. So I think building out the what Russ and I do is help people build their strategy, so they know all the things they want to accomplish. Then somebody like you can help them pull it off. We have this big gap between desire and implementation.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
Part of implementation is on your side. I'm going to ask you another question. I'm going to let the smart guy ask some questions. Russ is saving up his questions. So, and I'm promoting this interview. If you're on Facebook, please share it with your friends. If you're listening to this podcast and don't see the pictures, we're talking to Pipp Patton, and he's an expert in many things. But we're talking today about creating a web experience, and that websites are dead, but they don't have to be dead. Websites are an active, organic engagement tool. And we're talking right now about the funding piece. We just say, oh, make a donation. But Pipp, we don't really create the language, and we don't really make it a seamless and simple process. And you just mentioned, as they're checking out, you could say, oh, by the way, would you want to support this? Or the other option here's some committees. Here's a place you can volunteer. So, you can have they're investing in the outcomes of the organization, but they also can invest with their time. And maybe there's a way they could share this stuff with other people while they got the site open. So I'm sure there's lots of things, lots of tricks up your sleeve. But I heard you say at the beginning of this that when people get there, we drive traffic. That's one factor. But what do people do when they get there? So what's the most important thing you can say to people thinking about updating or even beginning to build a web experience for a nonprofit or church or some community public service organization? What's the advice you'd give them as they're starting up?
Well, as they're starting up, I believe every business needs a website. Websites are dead. I always like to say websites are dead for certain purposes, but everybody should have one also as a general information point. As far as a startup nonprofit, yes, I believe they should have a website that when someone lands there, they can quickly understand what that nonprofit is about. What's their purpose? What's their mission? What are they trying to accomplish in the world?
Well, there's a lot to that, yeah. And so with the website being dead, one of the things that confuse people and leads to having them get stuck is the availability of so many different tools. And you spoke to the landing page, which is really a special purpose, but what are some of the other tools in addition to the website that are effective for nonprofits, and why do these work well together?
Well, one of the things right now is we're probably at a point right now where it's easier to build a brand online than it ever has been before. And with that, and that really involves making a commitment into social media. And what I'm telling people today, I had a meeting with a young lady yesterday who used to be a Tony Robbins coach, and she's launching a coaching business of her own, that she needs to be doing a Facebook Live every day. And then take that video, whatever that is, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 10, 15, 20, whatever it is, download that video and put it up on her YouTube channel. Then go through that video and find the little nuggets of wisdom, 60-second clips, and post those on Instagram. Then we'll take that video and we'll separate the video and the audio, and we'll take the audio and put it up on a podcast. And then if we go even a step further, she can take and have the audio transcribed and create a blog post for that. So now she's got multiple, and pieces of the entire video or parts of the video can also be posted on their LinkedIn profile. So now you have the ability to put out media on almost a daily basis to a whole bunch of different channels. Now, why is that important? That's important because today, like I held up the phone before, it's a battle, if you will, or to get people's attention. And you don't know where everybody's attention is. Mine might be on Facebook, yours might be in LinkedIn, Hugh might be on Instagram, or some people spend a lot of time on YouTube. Some folks like to read, actually. The reading is still a thing that people do, I think, especially if they're over 40.
Well, yeah, and Hugh happens to be surrounded by Yellow Page guys. I sold Yellow Page ads during my college. So once again, he's out on the fringes, but that's okay.
It's like my worst nightmare. What do you mean?
Once again, out onto the fringes. And so, yeah, there's so many things that are here that we can use. And what we are all about here at Center Vision is strategy. And, with all of these tools available, and you just mentioned one way that somebody could take one single piece of content and spread it across 6 platforms. Do you find that there's a lot of confusion out there about how to use these platforms, and what's the best way to approach actually building a social media strategy? Because you really want to have a brand And don't different people show up in these multiple places?
They do. You certainly you want to know who your audience is. You ideally, as you guys know, if you're building a strategy, you want to create an avatar if you can. So who is that person that you're speaking to, and you want to do the best you can with that. And as far as the social media strategy goes, I usually tell people, because I work mostly in the for-profit sector, I tell people, so put out your best content. Tell people the best stuff. Most people are not going to want to do it themselves. They're going to want to go find somebody who can do it for them. But the more you give your best information, the more you are establishing yourself as the expert, and you become branded. You create content that people want to share, and then the more they share it. What's interesting about Facebook is when you first start doing this, you may not have anybody watching your Facebook Live. But the more you do it, if the first time you do it, you get one person watching, the next time maybe it's 2 or 3. As that number begins to grow slowly, Facebook realizes, hey, there are people staying on listening to this for 5 or 10 minutes. We'll start showing it to more people. And of course, Facebook knows more about all of us than we would like anyway. So they're going to share. They're going to share it with what they determine to be like-minded people who match up to the folks that are watching. So your audience can grow, and all of that. It takes time to do it, but it doesn't take dollars to do that. And then one of the great things about doing this type of strategy on social media is, if you're doing video content and it's out there, you're going to find over time certain posts are going to get a lot more engagement than others. So when you find a post that gets a higher level of engagement, then you can download that video or parts of that video and use that in a paid advertising strategy, because you already know the content that's gotten good engagement. So that's going to do better when you're putting money behind it than if you were just starting to spend money on a campaign, not really knowing if you had engaging ads or not. So it can help you in that regard a great deal as well.
Well, it certainly makes sense. I mean, that's part of being effective, is staying on track, tracking everything that you do. And that's one of the things we encourage people to do. So you've got all of these tools. So what would you say is really the best approach to building a brand, given that there's so many options there? How would somebody approach building a brand?
Well, I think just what I said. I would set up a page, a Facebook page around their brand, and then I would be getting on there on a live basis, doing regular content. If not daily, 3 or 4 times a week. And it doesn't always have to be themselves. It could be an interview like we're doing here. Now, this is actually a podcast that's being live streamed to Facebook, but it could just be somebody doing a one-on-one interview on Facebook with somebody within their niche that they want, that they felt like their audience would be interested in what that person has to say. So I would just start there, and the other means of taking that content and putting it other places is, it may initially be challenging, technologically challenging for some folks, but with a little bit of instruction, or it's not that tough to really figure out. I know of a couple people would probably disagree with me, but overall, I think most people, if you're dedicated to building your brand and you have you know where you're going, you'll get that part figured out.
Well, it's okay for people to disagree with you, because you're not responsible for their low functioning. Just to play into, I'll brag on what we're doing here. Just to play into what you're saying, to show that it's practical, we are streaming live on Facebook. We're recording on my computer, which then I will edit and put the music and the brand on it. And then I will relaunch the video on YouTube. And then it goes around, and we put it on LinkedIn and Facebook, and people review it. And the next couple of days, you'll have several hundred views. And then in a few days, it will launch on the audio podcast. And we will take what you say, every word you say, and transcribe it. So that goes into the podcast and into the webpage. We'll post on the webpage. By the way, the live stream of the Facebook is streaming on your page on our website right now. And so if people go there, and we've publicized that on all of our 250,000 contacts on social media, people go there, they don't have to register, they can just watch you on our very website. And so we are repurposing live right now. And then before I go to sleep tonight, it'll be on YouTube and it'll be all over. And the people will be ringing your phone wondering, who is this guy? No. So we provide value to people every day, every week when we do these. And thank you for being a guest. But what I do find, Pipp, is when I show up in a group of leaders, people know who I am because I'm out there on the live stream. I'm out there on social media, and people don't always agree with what I say, but I subscribe to the theologian Reinhold Niebuhr, who says, "Comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable." So we can start things up a little bit. So this is so helpful. And if people don't know how to do all these things, we will put into the window, and you can, and your website address, and we will put in, do you want us to put in your email too so people know how to contact you?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. And Pipp at SI, what is SI?
Search Intelligence, that's my company.
-5.com. So we will put it into the notes for the interview. So I know Russ is anxious to dig deeper on some questions. So I'm gonna throw it back to Russell.
Well, this is all fascinating, and people look at social media. There's so many different platforms. There's so many choices out there. So, what would you say to a nonprofit leader that says, "Well, we don't need all of that. We only need one. We'll just do Facebook. Nobody's looking at it." What would you say to a nonprofit leader that approaches you and says that?
Well, I would say that that's a good start, but it depends on, my attitude is this, and I'll hold up the phone to him as well, him or her as well, and I'll say, this is what holds most people's attention today. Everybody whose attention is here is not on Facebook. Some of them are watching YouTube videos. Some of them are on their Twitter feed. Some of them are on LinkedIn. There's a LinkedIn app on this phone. Some of them, a lot of people listen to podcasts when they're driving around doing things. And a few people actually go to websites and read stuff still. So I would say, yes, you want to be on Facebook. It's important to be on Facebook. And you want to be on Facebook with video, because video holds people's attention. But you're kind of handcuffing yourself if you're going to stick with just one platform. If you're going to put the work into doing that one platform, it isn't a whole lot more work to get that content out on a whole bunch of other platforms. Ideally, I think somebody on their own could probably get this done in an hour a day once you kind of get used to doing it and kind of get a little system going. Before that, it's going to take longer. It's going to be burdensome until you fine tune it for yourself.
Multiple platforms. So
multiple platforms
for nonprofits, and I know you work with a lot of different businesses. Are there some that are a little bit better than others if they've got limited bandwidth as far as the amount of time or people that they have to actually sit and work the system or get it set up? Is there sort of an order of priority that works a little better for nonprofits?
Well, I think Facebook and Instagram are huge, of course. And I think for a lot of people, LinkedIn hasn't really been utilized to the extent that it could be. So, but if you're going to do the Facebook content, it's not, like I say, it's just not a lot of extra work to take some of that stuff, some clips, or even some still shots from your video, if you will, and get them on Instagram. And then you can take that same video and post the video on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, however, you're going to do that probably on your personal profile, not the business profile, because people don't really find the stuff that's posted on the business side.
So it's taking advantage of all of the different senses. I guess some platforms are more visual, like a Pinterest and or an Instagram. I mean, those are very visual. So how important is it to play to all of the senses that people have in making your message stick, as it were, and reach more people?
Well, you wanna mix it up. One of the things you can do, and part of the advice I give people too is, if you have your avatar, what's the age bracket? I mean, if you're dealing with 40 and under, you probably need to focus more of your attention on Instagram. But if it's say 35 and up, then maybe Facebook. I mean, there's a saying out there now that the millennials aren't on Facebook. I don't believe that's true. I think they're there as well, even though Instagram may have their primary focus. And Pinterest, I don't do much with Pinterest. I think for certain niches, particularly e-commerce, it can be really good. I think it's good for jewelers. I think it's good for the wedding industry. It's certain things that are very visually oriented, even more than Instagram is visually oriented. But you got to play with different ones and then see which posts you do that get the most engagement. The other thing you can do is, in Instagram in particular, there's tools that allow you to search hashtags in Instagram. And if you know what your hashtags are, search those, find out what the top performing posts are within that, on that platform, and then use those to help yourself model the posts you do. I know I have a young man that I know who's very proficient in Instagram, and he's really young. He's like 21 years old. And so, normally he's on there in, t-shirts and jeans and flip-flops and stuff like that. Well, he was looking at a competitor and saw a competitor had done a post, young guy as well, dressed up in a suit and tie. And the post got huge engagement. So he went out and got a suit and tie and did a post, and it did better than anything else he'd been doing. So you can learn from what other people do. You're not going to copy, but you can model that success to help gain more success for yourself. Does that kind of help answer that a little bit?
And that does. And the hashtag gives people things to search through. But the thing that I'm seeing more and more and more is video. So talk about the importance of video, because I know for nonprofits, it's about telling a story in an engaging one. So why is it really important for them to use video? And are there some things that would be more effective where video is concerned?
Well, video is important because it will hold people's attention longer. The one most important thing about video when you do it is the sound needs to be really good. Because people, even if the visual part of it's good, if the sound is poor, people won't stick around and listen. There's another trick with regard to Facebook as well that's interesting to know, is that most people who watch videos on Facebook on their mobile device do so with the sound off. So probably 70%. So it's a good idea to make the effort to close caption that video. That way you can get your message across to people even when they don't have the sound on. That's an extra step, more work, but certainly can be well worth it. But videos need to be real. If they're too slickly produced, you'll lose people. I know a story that I'm fond of telling is of a friend who has an online business, and she lives in the Northeast, and she's a mom. She's got like 4 kids, I think, and she's always really busy. And she had been trying to get out this video post for a week, and it was just always something going on. The dog was sick, or one of the kids were sick, or something was going on. And finally, she just said, "I got to get this done." So she didn't have time to even do her hair, didn't put any makeup on. She had our sick son sitting on her lap, turned on her webcam and her microphone and did it. And that post got more engagement than anything she'd ever done because it was real. People could relate to that. And so I really think in any arena that you need to have content that people can relate to. Because if video is too slick, then everybody thinks they can't do it, or it's too well produced, so to speak. You can have some of that, but it's nice to have just the stuff that's real, and you pull out your iPhone or your mobile phone and you shoot some video, and that can be really, really engaging and very effective.
Well, it looks like all that red carpet footage for Hugh from Sunday night will have to stay in the vault. So we'll have to keep that put away, you know. And so all of this material that we put together and all of the ways that we bring this information together is to tell a story that's relatable to people. And so you have all of this. Now, back to the whole topic of a sales funnel, because we want people to become more and more engaged. So you attract more at the top, and as you bring them in, hence the concept of a funnel. Talk a little bit about some of the things that nonprofits would use a funnel for. I know some of it is to engage donors. What are some of the other uses of a sales funnel, and what sort of messaging would go into that?
Well, the messaging could be, really whatever they're trying to promote at that time, whether it's, like you say, whether it's, raising funds, or whether it's attracting volunteers. It could be promoting a particular event. And the best way to do a sales funnel is just put one together that's a single one focused on that one topic. And it's really, like you say, it's all about the strategy. What are you trying to accomplish, and then how do you and the other thing that's really important on these sales funnels is the social proof. Social proof is really everything in today's social media world. When you're pulling out, you talk about doing the video before, when you're pulling out your video and you're having an event or you're doing somewhere, you want to get some comments from other people that are not necessarily a part of the organization, but they're fans of the organization, or they're the people who come to the church, they're the people who support the charity, they're the people who volunteer for the charity, they're the people who are recipients of some of the charity's good works. All of that, as much as you can, needs to be captured. Pictures, video, and then that needs to be a part of that sales funnel. So when you direct traffic there, people can see all of this evidence that, hey, I'm here for a particular reason. I'm here to donate some funds for this. And then you see an overwhelming amount of social proof saying, hey, these guys really do good work. And here's the evidence of that. And it makes it easy for people to say yes and take the next step.
So that's really powerful where social media is concerned, is to have your friends recommend you. I mean, that's probably the best thing you can get out there. People who are talking about why they support that nonprofit, and more people that the audience can relate to.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just so important. That's so important today. As I mentioned, I'm doing some work for CFL right now for a marriage ministry, and that's what our whole focus of attention right now is gathering social proof for people who have been through this marriage ministry and the positive results they've received. So we want to gather all that before we make the next big marketing push. Sometimes it's funny to say marketing when you're talking about a nonprofit, but still, it's marketing. It's getting the message out.
Well, yeah. I mean, if nobody knows what good work you're doing, they can't support you. So
that's right.
We have an aversion to some principles, and we have an aversion in nonprofits and churches, or in fact nonprofits, that we don't want to sell. Well, what is evangelism? We don't want to market. What is evangelism? We people don't give. Well, have we told them what's going on? Have we told them about the impact of our work? So I think interviewing people and getting third-party testimonies is excellent. However, we have to give them a format to talk in, because they'll just talk about fluff unless we say, talk about what you needed and talk about what the impact was, or talk about what the results were that you saw. So I'd say a little bit about how when we do get people to talk about us and we post this, this is sort of, we started out talking about our websites live, but we've talked about a web presence really. And your website is sort of your credibility piece. This is what we do, this is what we're about. But you're talking about your website is not just on that one platform. Like our work of our nonprofit, our church is not behind the four walls. And so there's a whole lot of other pieces about marketing that I think Russell is spot on. I mean, it's essential to how do you connect with people.
Exactly. I think one of the best ways, like you said, to make sure that you're just not getting fluff and words and whatever, is you have to ask questions, specific questions. So if you're doing a video interview, or even if you're just walking around an event with your mobile phone, asking people some questions, ask some questions and get their answers. Because then you're not just going to get, oh, this is great, wonderful, terrific, I'm happy to be here, and blah, blah, blah. You're going to say, what have you seen today that made the biggest impact on you? That type of thing. Or have you thought of somebody else, a friend that you really want to know about this? Or if you're talking to someone who's been the recipient of the good works of that organization, talk to them and say, how has this impacted your life? How has this helped you at home? How has this helped you with your children? So you get some specifics in there and not just fluff, as you said.
And it's not that we're programming them, but we're helping them focus on what's important. So I'm going to let Russ have another go at you, then we're going to do a sponsor moment. And then Pipp will give you a chance to have the last word, a tip or whatever. But Russ, what else do you have on your heart you want to ask him to talk about?
Well, one of the things we talked about in the Colorado Speakers Academy was in messaging. It's trying to find out what you want people to know, feel, and do as a result of the message. What would be the advice that you would give to nonprofit leaders specifically to hone in on accomplishing those three things? Are there certain best practices that serve a nonprofit more so than it would serve a commercial entity, for an example?
Well, I think they're largely the same, but anybody who's leading a nonprofit is already, in most cases, somebody who is comfortable speaking, because they're having to get up in front of people and speak. So it's just getting comfortable turning that webcam on and talking to a Facebook audience when you're not actually seeing a person right in front of you. That's why interviews can be helpful, like we're doing here on the Zoom platform, because then at least you have another person to speak to. But it's really, and then focusing on the message that you want. But the other thing that's really, really effective is telling stories. It's really important to get your message told in a story format, because people love listening to stories, but they don't like being lectured to. So if you can get your message across in a compelling story, then you're going to be a lot more effective.
That was one of the takeaways from our mastermind. Yeah, we have a group, One Business Connection here in Denver, that meets. And, somebody will share a challenge. And we had one of our members actually looking at updating some of her material on social media. And she had written something out very carefully, and it was slick. It was sort of polished. And so when the question was posed, why is she doing this? you know, her authentic self came out. And she talked for about 45 seconds, and one of the members said, "Why didn't you write that down?" Because it was smooth. She was just, it was seamless. She was really into that, and so it came out very well. And do you find that people feel like they have to polish stuff up because maybe they're uncomfortable being on camera, even if they're the only person in the room? It's sort of like this speaker anxiety where they're afraid to talk into the camera. So,
Well, sure.
how do you address that?
Well, what I tell people is the same thing I tell myself because I'm not comfortable doing it either. It's just we got to do it. And whether it takes you 10 times or 20 times or 30 times, once you do it enough, you're going to find your voice and you're going to get a good understanding of how you need to present information, the kinds of stories that you're good at telling and that kind of thing. It's just, well, just like you say with the Speakers Bureau, people don't walk in there if they've never really done any speaking but always wanted to. They're going to be bad when they start. And practice gets you better. I mean, I used to play competitive golf, and if you've ever played any golf, you know that when the first time you pick up a club, everything you do is totally wrong. But you got to learn those fundamentals, and then you got to practice. So it's just practice. But the nice thing about it is with social media, people are intimidated by and large, and so if they see somebody not looking quite so polished or maybe stumbling over their words a little bit, they're okay with that. I mean, it's kind of like that's real, and real can be very compelling, and you can draw an audience by being a real authentic person. Say that, I could do that.
Well, I don't think they'll mistake Hugh and I for Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon with a tan, but I think we hold our own here, and yeah, and get a message out to folks that resonates with them, and that's what we hope to do. And finding other people that are doing some of this type of stuff might be helpful. So, do you recommend having people get a support system, or maybe talk to somebody that has done this type of stuff? Or how about some of the volunteers in the organization? Do you find that when you work with nonprofits that some of them have volunteers on board that are really savvy with this stuff, who can interface with someone like you to bring the image to life for a nonprofit?
Well, in this arena, I can't say I've worked with enough of them to have that experience. I'm working real solidly more with one right now, and they do have some volunteers that are helpful in this arena, but it still largely falls to the head of the organization to, in most cases, the nonprofits, at least ones I've been involved with, they don't have real big staffs. So there's not a lot of people. Even if there's volunteers don't have a huge amount of time. So it's learning how to put it together into a system that you can create for yourself. So like I said, once you get it down, you could probably do a Facebook live video, parse it out to the different platforms, and get it all done inside of an hour. If you just if you've done it before and know what you're doing. It just takes a little bit of time, like everything, to learn those steps.
Speaking of an hour, we can multiply ourselves if we learn to lead a whole team. And so I want to let you have the last word. I want to talk about our community for a minute and our learning programs. But Pipp has opened up a topic that's of really, really important topic that we think, we'll just get some kid to put up a pretty looking website. Well, we haven't developed a whole integrated program. And Pipp, part of what we don't do either is define who we are, identify our brand value, our brand image, our brand promise. We need to identify, just had a little technical glitch here. We want to identify who we are. So what we have at CenterVision is a whole integrated process. And, you are doing things differently in the web presence and the social media presence and the, letting people integrate with us and engage people. And it's so critical in the nonprofit space. Now we have a website called centervisionleadership.org that you went there to fill out the form. We are building it out, and we've done a pretty good job of SEO, but we've also invited people to join. And Pipp, you should join. You can join for free. And if people join CenterVision Leadership for free, they get a huge leadership program called the 5 Pillars of Success. So we just don't want you to come look around. We want you to come join us. And there's conversations, there's forums, there's videos like this. We have webinars. We have courses. You can take a course to learn how to build your strategy and how to empower your team, even how to generate income for your charity. And so we have a team of experts who are on there to help you do a better job. So Pipp, I think we've begun, we're not at perfection, we have begun implementing the things you're talking about. And I will say that I resonate with everything you shared today. It really works. So we call this interview process, which is our interview. And Pipp, you're also welcome to write for the magazine, the nonprofit performance magazine. But we call this interview the Nonprofit Exchange. And you're part of a long history of really, really good presentations. So thank you for today. So if people want to find out, take this name, the Nonprofit Exchange.org. Try to make it easy. The Nonprofit Exchange. It's the exchange of ideas. And we're a nonprofit. It's .org. You go there, you'll see, boop, here's SI. And here's the interview for Pipp. You can click on the button at the bottom. You can get archives of several of these interviews. If you join the community, you'll get all of the interviews. But at the top of that page, when you go to the Nonprofit Exchange, there's a blue button. It says join. Now, doesn't mean we're coming apart. You don't need to join us that way, but you need to come in and play with us. So join for free, check it out, and then look at one of the paid memberships, because it magnifies what you get, magnifies. So it's an exponential value as you up to having live Q&A with you and ultimately Russell and some more team members every week. You got problems, you're on there with a whole bunch of nonprofit leaders and you're helping each other solve problems. So it's a guided mastermind group. So in the South, Pipp, we say none of us is as smart as all of us. I just say that because Russ is not in the South and you're in Florida, which isn't the South either.
That's true.
So as we wrap up here, we want people to join the community because we're better together. And every Thursday at 3, if you're a member at a certain level, we get to work together. And every Thursday at 3, there's some important things that happen that my jaw drops. So come and join us. Try it out. Put your toe in the water. We're coming up to the hour, Pipp. So what thought or tip or challenge do you want to leave people with as a parting thought?
Okay, well, I would challenge everybody to get out there on social media, go do a Facebook Live, start there, get a little comfortable with that, and then you can figure out a way to parse that material out. As Hugh said, take the video, put it on YouTube, take pieces of it, put it on Instagram, stick it on LinkedIn and all that. And Hugh, if it's okay, can I make an offer to your group,
Sure.
Our audience?
And you'll send me a link and we'll put it in the,
Okay. Anybody, I will offer to create a sales funnel for three nonprofits for no charge. So the first 3 that contact me as a result of this interview, they can contact me via email, pipp@si-5.com, and I will put together, I'll help them strategize that funnel and put together a sales funnel for them for no charge.
I don't think Russ and I could take the first 2. That wouldn't be fair. So that's very generous. Your email is on the page on the nonprofit
yes.
page. So is your website. There's a link to both of those. So Russ, thank you so much for being here. Russ will close us out today.
Well, thank you very much, Pipp. It's been very enlightening, and as always, an hour flies by here. on the Nonprofit Exchange. So be sure to check out our website, centervisionleadership.org. And the blue button doesn't just say join, it says join today. Don't wait. Get right in, get the value. Come visit us, and as we grow this community. Sandy will probably be reaching out to you, Pipp, because our next issue of Nonprofit Professional Performance 360 magazine is about branding. So she would love to have an article from you, and we're very grateful to Sandy, who keeps us organized there, and to all of you who've come out and join us from week to week. The Nonprofit Exchange is available in the iTunes Store and on Stitcher. Make sure you subscribe to the Nonprofit Exchange podcast and visit our website regularly for all sorts of value-added content. And so this is Russ Dennis for Hubaloo. Thank you for joining us again, and we will see you here at the same time and place next Tuesday. Keep making a difference and making lives better for others out there.